Today I want to talk about how I lit my first dialogue scene and some of the lessons I learned in the process. I was tasked to create this introduction video for the theater arts ministry at the church that I work for. The video basically is setting the foundation for the performing arts team to come out on stage. I wanted to go over kind of how I lit this, some of the lessons I learned in the process, and talk about some of the gear I used, and in hopes you can learn something, and I know I did for sure. Okay, so this very first scene is an establishing shot. There's nothing groundbreaking about it. This was shot at the Creative Arts Ministry director's home. She was gracious enough to open up her beautiful home, so we shot everything in this place. The first thing I did when lighting this scene was I turned on the two practical lamps to motivate the light. On the practical lamp closest to the talent, I had a small rig 220B double diffuse. I had it going through a softbox as well as diffusion cloth. Once I set that up, I realized that her shadow side was a little too dark. So I added the Sirui C150X as a fill light, and that was blasting through a layer of diffusion. And behind the couch, which you cannot see, I also had a 4-foot RGB tube light just to bring up the room tone a bit. Gear-wise, I used the Sony a7 IV with the Sigma 24-70 Art. I also used the Zeiss 55mm 1.8 for the tighter shots, just to give that shallow depth of field to bring you into the character's world. One quick note for this scene is I wish I had a little bit more space. I would have had a little bit of a wider shot for the master, but you just work with what you have. Moving on to the kitchen scene now. This is the daughter. This was meant to look very high key, so very bright. I used in the background between the doorway, I had a small rig 220D blasting through diffusion set to 5600K. That was just to add some room tone and bring up the lighting in the background so that room through the door wasn't just dark. In the kitchen, I had 3 lights set up, all of them set to 5600K. The first one was a 4-foot tube light to bring up exposure. 2 of them blasting at the ceiling because the ceiling was white and it bounces the light and softens it. It brings up the overall exposure. Because again, we're trying to show the contrast between a mom who has this news that's life-altering. She's telling her daughter she has cancer, and then her daughter answering a phone, hearing it for the first time. So she's just going about her day and hanging out in the kitchen and doing whatever, and her mom calls and tells her this news. So I'm gonna play this video in its entirety while I'm recapping the lessons I learned. Show up on time or early. Make sure you are prepared for any mistakes that could happen or for any challenges that can arise, and you will. So just know that you'll forget something. You didn't have a battery charge, the plug didn't work, whatever. You didn't have extension cords, you name it. There's always something. So be prepared, show up early. Also, if you have someone that could help you, bring someone to help you, because setting up, tearing down, lighting, audio, filming all by yourself is definitely not easy, especially as a solo creator. And although this wasn't like a feature film or anything, it was my first dialogue scene, so I was able to overcome some of these things, but I really wanted to, show how I did this, not only to hold myself accountable for growing as a cinematographer, but also to help other people who may be jumping into a situation for the first time and don't know where to go with it. So I hope this helped a little bit. I'm usually behind the camera, so if I'm rambling, that's why, but this is who I am, so I'm not gonna apologize for that. So I hope you connected with this in some way. I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll answer them gladly. And I thank you for watching. Appreciate you.